Technology is moving ahead. Changes are being made everywhere you go, and everyone is busy. Business today is a fast-paced, no-nonsense environment where productivity and efficiency mean everything. Workers today must be productive, extremely efficient, and well-trained. We work and live in an environment that requires your full attention to what you're doing. No room for mistakes. That's just the way business works. No matter what job you have or in what industry you work, there are responsibilities associated with your job. Part of these responsibilities is safety. Safety for you and the safety of your coworkers and visitors to your facilities. Over the many years, safety has evolved into a very high-profile responsibility. Safety laws and regulations are becoming more stringent and demanding. Worker compensation costs are eroding profitability, and businesses are faced with greater challenges in the workplace. What this means is there is more responsibility in your job today than there was 20 years ago. Times have changed. So have the business and recreational environments in which we work and live. The goal of this training program is to help you understand some of your job responsibilities that include safety. Safety is a major part of your job, no matter where you work or what type of job you perform. Persons who work in areas where it appears there are no hazards, such as in an office, often have a misunderstanding of how safety applies to them. Sometimes we think that safety doesn't apply to us. Actually, safety applies to everyone in all departments all the time. You'd be surprised to learn that office accidents can occur as often as any other department, even though the physical hazards appear to be less in an office environment. Safety is your responsibility no matter where you work or what job you perform. It's management's responsibility to provide safety training and information about your specific job, machines, equipment, and other potential hazards. In every organization, there are policies and procedures relating to your job and how you perform it. It's your responsibility to learn and follow these policies and procedures. If you have questions, be sure to ask your supervisor. If you're new to the company, there are many questions you'll have during your familiarization or orientation process. Ask questions if you're not sure about something. There are no dumb safety questions. Keep in mind that you must be trained and authorized to operate any equipment or machine before you should attempt to use them. Certainly, if you were an expert in computer systems, very little training, if any, would be required. However, in this case, the company may want to provide some guidelines on authorized uses of the computer, which could include company policies and procedures that apply to your job. If you'll be operating equipment that has the potential of injury to you or others, more detailed training would be required. Additionally, there are some new safety standards that require site-specific or job-specific training. In other words, if you're assigned as a forklift operator, you must be trained in proper forklift operations, and you must also be trained in all the other potential hazards of that job. Some of the hazards associated with forklifts include carbon monoxide poisoning, handling propane gas, using and charging batteries, working around pedestrians, and other similar potential hazards to which forklift operators may be exposed. You can see that training is more involved and detailed than most people think. Years ago, training was fairly simple because safety issues were simple. In today's business environment, training is an ongoing process. There are always more things to learn, especially about safety. Now you know you're supposed to be trained and authorized before operating any equipment, and you know that safety is your responsibility. Let's take a look at some of these safety responsibilities. Reporting to work rested, alert, and ready to perform your job is the first step. Fatigue may affect your ability to work safely. Next, wear appropriate clothing for the job. Follow your company's dress code. This includes wearing proper footwear for the job. Even in offices, low heels should be worn, as high heels have a tendency to reduce your stability when walking and also increases fatigue in your feet and back. Yes, we said your back because wearing high heels Place your back in an unusual position, causing the vertebrae to become misaligned, which can create back fatigue and increase the chances for back injuries. If you'll be working in an area with equipment and machinery, don't wear rings and jewelry that can get caught in the moving parts. Keep long hair tied back or under a hat, again to avoid getting caught in machines. Clothing should fit properly, allowing room for movement without being so loose it could get caught in moving parts. Your company provides necessary first aid and medical treatment for injuries. If you are injured on the job, report the accident to your supervisor immediately so that proper medical treatment can be provided. First aid or professional medical treatment will be given as necessary. However, you must report all accidents and injuries when they occur, even if your injury does not require medical treatment. Let's take a second to discuss bloodborne pathogens. If you haven't heard these words before, no need to panic. These two words describe viruses in human blood and blood products. These blood pathogens may contain very serious diseases such as hepatitis B, hepatitis C, or HIV. HIV is the virus that causes AIDS. To protect you from the potential of contracting these diseases, precautions must be taken around blood and other body fluids. The potential for exposure to these and other diseases are more likely when there is blood or body fluids, such as in an injury. First aid, CPR providers, and emergency responders are trained in precautions to take against these potentially dangerous viruses. Every person should be trained in bloodborne pathogens and understand the precautions we need to take to protect ourselves from these very serious diseases. It's a natural human tendency to assist an injured person. If you're not trained or don't use the proper personal protective equipment, you could be exposed to these pathogens when treating injured persons. There is no way to determine if an injured person's blood contains these viruses. The best advice is to assume that blood and blood-contaminated fluids should be considered infectious. Take time to learn about bloodborne pathogens and how to protect yourself in an emergency situation at work, home, or elsewhere. Of course, if you have been exposed to blood or body fluids, always wash the affected areas of your body with soap and water. Then report the exposure to your supervisor or medical advisor. What is PPE and how does it affect you? PPE means personal protective equipment, equipment that has been designed to protect you from potential injuries. When required for certain job assignments, PPE will be issued to you and it's your responsibility to wear it. PPE could include safety glasses when your eyes are exposed to potential injury, gloves to protect your hands, hard hats for head protection, hearing protection for high noise areas, face shields to protect your face, respirators, specialized shoes. All these and more are considered personal protective equipment. Each job has specific rules relating to the wearing, storing, handling, and using personal protective equipment. Learn what the rules are and why the equipment is required. Let's say you work in an area where gloves are needed to protect your hands from rough or sharp parts. In that same area, you may be required to operate machinery, such as a saw. You use gloves to protect your hands in one case, but never wear gloves when operating machinery, such as a saw. The gloves can get caught on the moving parts and pull your hand into the dangerous part, causing a more serious injury than if you had not worn gloves. Safety glasses and face shields are another example. Even though you may be wearing a face shield, you still need to wear safety glasses as eye protection. Both must be worn in many cases. PPE includes respirators and other protection from chemicals and harmful liquids. The most important thing to remember about PPE is to wear it when required. Keep it clean, and if you have any questions, be sure to ask your supervisor. Electrical safety is another important safety consideration. Naturally, everyone has been exposed to electricity and how dangerous it can be if it's misused. Generally, in the workplace, you should always inspect electrical cables, cords, and plugs for frays, cracks, cuts, or defects before you use them. If the electrical tools or equipment you use do not say double insulated on the manufacturer's tag, then they must be grounded with a 3-prong plug and a grounded cable. This provides some degree of protection from electrical shock in case of a malfunction or short in the tool. What this means is there must be a 3rd prong on the plug. The 3rd wire goes to ground. In case of a short or malfunction, the electricity will flow through this 3rd wire to ground and not through the person holding the malfunctioning tool or equipment. Of course, if the ground wire is not properly connected to the system, or the 3rd prong is missing from the plug, then there is no electrical shock prevention. Always check and test your equipment for safety before you use it. Naturally, never use electrical tools near or around wet floors or other wet or damp surfaces. This includes electrical tools when your hands are sweaty or wet with grease or other liquids. Unplug electrical appliances or electrical tools before cleaning or repairing them. Never overload a circuit by using octopus plugs to plug additional appliances into the electrical outlet. When removing a plug and cord from the outlet, never pull on the cord. Grasp the plug and pull the plug, not the cord. There's much to learn about electrical safety, so take care to ask questions in your assigned work area if you're unsure about electrical safety or anything else in your work area or job. You may or may not work in an area with machinery. If you do, you need to be aware of lockout-tagout, or what is called control of hazardous energy. This means that when someone is working on or servicing equipment, the safety of the person working on the machine is mandatory. To make sure the machine doesn't start accidentally, all hazardous energy must be locked out. Hazardous energy could be electricity, springs under tension, gravity, where heavy parts could fall down, liquids, or steam under pressure, or other hazardous energy sources. The person working on the equipment locks out these energy sources and places a tag on the equipment to warn everyone that someone is working on the machine. Even if you don't work in these areas, or you're not a mechanic or machine operator, it's important to know about these tags and locks. Never remove any of these tags or locks unless you're the person who placed them there. Don't attempt to start any machine that has a lock or tag on it. Lockout and tag-out procedures save lives. If you don't work in an area that uses machinery, at least you have an understanding of what lockout-tagout is all about. If you do work in such an area, follow the rules. What should you do in case of an emergency? There are emergency action plans for different types of emergencies, such as fire, tornado, flood, hurricane, earthquake, and other unexpected emergencies. You'll be provided additional training in emergency action procedures, but as a quick review, let's take a look at some basics. In case of fire, exit the building by appropriate exits. Remain calm and report to your designated area so your supervisor can account for you. It's important to know if anyone is left inside the building or if they are missing. In case of earthquake or a tornado, it's best not to go outside. Falling electrical lines, broken glass, or other dangerous conditions could exist outside your building. Experts recommend that you get under a sturdy desk or other heavy object and duck, cover, and hold. Duck under a heavy object for safety. Cover your head with your hands and hold that position until it's safe to move. In cases of emergency, there are people assigned to direct you to safety or what action you should take to protect yourself. Remain calm and use your good judgment and training to protect yourself and the lives of others. Make sure your emergency action plans are kept up to date, that proper emergency telephone numbers are located on every telephone, and that everyone knows what to do in case of an emergency. Housekeeping is something we all understand, but unfortunately we don't always do effectively. Housekeeping is a bit more than just keeping your work area clean. It's keeping the work area clean, and it's also looking around for potential hazards. When hazards or unsafe conditions are spotted, it's time to correct them or notify management so they can be corrected. Housekeeping is keeping exits clear and unblocked, keeping electrical panels clear and unblocked. Housekeeping is checking your work area for materials, cords, cables, or other items that can cause slips, trips, and falls. It's checking your equipment to make sure grease or oil doesn't leak on floors, causing potential slips, falls. It's taking the time to make sure your entire area is neat, clean, and organized, putting tools where they belong when you've finished using them. Housekeeping is picking up paper, trash, or debris when you see it, even if it's not in your department. Housekeeping is your responsibility no matter where you work. Along with housekeeping is fire prevention. Good housekeeping is the first step in fire prevention. If you have poor housekeeping, you don't have good fire prevention. Next are fire extinguishers. If you don't know how to use extinguishers, learn how. It's not as easy as it looks, because in case of fire, everyone is under pressure and may panic. It's difficult to learn how to use an extinguisher at the time a fire occurs. As a review of the use of extinguishers, the first rule is life safety is paramount. This means that unless it's safe to do, don't try to play the hero and try to extinguish a fire that could be hazardous. Your life is more important than property. However, it can be done safely. First, stand about 8 to 10 feet away from the fire. You don't want to be close to the fire because the pressure of the extinguishing agent may spread the fire. Think PASS, P-A-S-S. PASS stands for pull the pin. Aim the nozzle towards the fire, squeeze the handle, and then sweep from side to side. That's PASS. As you expel the extinguishing material, move closer to the fire. After the fire has been extinguished, make absolutely sure it's completely out and won't flare up again. The only time you may try to extinguish a fire is if you are sure it's safe to do so. This brings us to flammable liquids and safety containers. A safety container is a metal container that has a spring-loaded top and a flame arrestor. A safety container for flammable liquids is not a plastic can. It's not a can such as sold in hardware stores or gasoline stations. It's not a glass container. It's a metal can. The spring-loaded top allows the flammable liquid and vapors inside the can to expand as necessary. Without this spring-loaded top, if the liquid expands and has nowhere to go, the container could burst. The flame arrestor is a filter-type object inside the can. The purpose of the arrestor is to keep flames from re-entering the container. As an example, you're pouring flammable liquid out of a safety container and somehow the vapor ignites. The flames could re-enter the container, causing a more violent explosion. When you have a flame arrestor, chances are the flames won't re-enter the safety container. While we're discussing safety containers, let's talk about oily rag containers. Oily or soiled rags must be kept in a metal container with a metal lid. The reason for this is that oily rags can create spontaneous combustion. This means the rags can create enough heat themselves to start a fire. If they are not in a metal container with a metal lid, the fire can spread. There are many more things to learn about fire prevention. Take it upon yourself to learn where the exits are located and think about what you would do in case of a fire or other emergency. As you walk through your work area, Inspect the fire extinguishers to make sure they are in the proper place and serviced. Make sure exits are clear. And in general, be your own safety inspector. Most safety rules are common sense, so do your part and take an aggressive look at your work area to make sure it's up to your high standards. Everyone gets visitors periodically, but in business, visitors to your facility must abide by your safety rules as well. It may be something as simple as wearing visitor safety glasses, but it could be more detailed. You are responsible to your visitors to advise them of any potential hazards. This is particularly true of contractors who may be working at your facility. Perhaps you have asbestos in your shop area on which they could be working. You're obligated to tell them about the hazard. Perhaps there are hazardous chemicals or other potential hazards. It's your job to make sure they know of these hazards. On the other hand, contractors or people who will be working in your facilities have an obligation to abide by your safety rules. It's your job to tell them what these rules are and the requirements. It's your job to make sure they don't bring hazards into your facility. This could be in the form of unauthorized chemicals or other hazards. No matter who the visitors or contractors are, they must observe your safety rules and procedures. It's your job to explain these procedures and requirements and make sure they are followed. Chemicals can harm individuals, property, the environment, and can be hazardous to our health. There are literally hundreds of thousands of chemicals, and they must be controlled so they don't harm our health or the environment. Everyone handles hazardous chemicals either at work or at home. Cleaners, cleansers, bleach, pesticides, sprays, fertilizers are all hazardous chemicals. It's not only chemicals at work, but also generally all chemicals must be treated with respect and, above all, read and follow the warnings on all chemical labels. At work, there are many rules and standards that must be followed when handling, using, storing, and disposing of hazardous materials. All chemicals in the workplace must be listed on an inventory. If you introduce new chemicals in your workplace, these chemicals must be listed on the company's chemical inventory list. Each chemical must also have an MSDS. An MSDS is a material safety data sheet that is supplied by the chemical manufacturer and contains information about that particular chemical. This information is important since it tells you about the chemical, what personal protective equipment is required, what first aid procedures to use, emergency procedures, and much more. Any employee using chemicals has the right to review these MSDSs and to learn as much as he or she can to protect his or her health. If you use chemicals, contact your supervisor when you want to review the material safety data sheets for additional information on chemicals. Chemicals in your work area must be labeled. There are exceptions for immediate use type chemicals, but generally the rule of thumb is all chemicals must be properly labeled. This helps prevent inadvertent mixture or use of the wrong chemical. Hazardous chemicals can be spilled and create a potentially harmful situation. Your responsibility is to learn what chemicals are in the workplace and what action should be taken in case of a spill or other emergency. Just as in a fire, if you're not trained to handle the situation, report it, get out, and leave the cleanup to the professionals. If you notice a chemical spill and you're not sure what to do, report it so it can be taken care of immediately. One last thing about chemicals. If you haven't been properly trained and authorized to mix chemicals, don't mix chemicals. Different kinds of chemicals react differently with other chemicals. What causes accidents and injuries? Does anyone know the cause? Actually, statistics have been maintained by a number of organizations and insurance companies over the years. With millions and millions of accidents and injuries, it's fairly easy to determine the different accident types, causes, and other information. Accidents are investigated to determine what happened, so precautions and safety standards can be implemented to prevent the same type of accident from repeating. That's one reason we have so many safety rules and regulations. If people keep falling off ladders, that could reveal that ladders are unsafe to use. Upon investigation of ladder accidents, professionals can determine how the ladder was used and what actually caused the accident. In most cases, it wasn't the ladder, it was the person using it and using it improperly. This is true of most accidents, not just using ladders. You'd be surprised to learn that 85 to 98% of all accidents and injuries are the result of unsafe acts of people. That's right, unsafe acts of people. Not equipment, not floors, not ladders, not machines, but people. How can that be? People don't try to have accidents, don't try to injure themselves. That's true, but unfortunately most accidents are caused by unsafe acts of people. We're not saying that physical hazards never cause or contribute to an accident because they do. However, 85 to 98% of accidents and injuries are caused by the acts of people. People taking shortcuts, not following proper procedures, ignoring safety rules, and just not paying attention. It's the priority we place on safety that makes the difference. When we think about the possible risks before starting a job and consider how our actions might affect the safety of others, injury and illness is less likely to happen. Certainly not all accidents are caused by unsafe behavior of employees. Physical hazards do create the opportunity for accidents. However, it still is clear the vast majority of accidents and injuries are caused by the unsafe acts of employees. What is the answer to this age-old problem? The answer is safety awareness. Thinking about safety on every task you perform. Maybe changing to better work habits. Taking the time for safety. Paying attention to the job at hand. Reducing the exposure to accidents by following safety rules and standards. If you really want to eliminate accidents, then you have to be aware of what you're doing, how you're doing it, and of course, use your good judgment and common sense to perform your job safely. If you make working safely a priority, it becomes a habit, and it's almost impossible to create an accident or injury. If all else fails and you do have an accident, be sure to report it to your supervisor immediately, even if medical attention is not required. One of the main reasons for reporting all accidents is to ensure they will be investigated. Investigated to determine the cause or causes of the accident. In this way, appropriate action can be taken to prevent a similar occurrence. If you don't report near misses or accidents that don't cause injuries, you may be contributing to the next major injury or death. When you experience a close call that doesn't result in an injury, it should be investigated. Next time, it might not be a close call. Supervisors and accident investigators are only interested in the facts. The investigator is not looking to blame anyone, only the facts. By obtaining accident facts, proper procedures or rules may help prevent a future similar accident. So be sure to report all accidents and injuries, even if they don't create a major injury. Accident reporting is your individual responsibility. If you witness an accident, be sure to contact your supervisor and explain what you saw, again providing factual information. The more information you give during an accident investigation, the better the results for finding out exactly what caused the accident. Of course, if a visitor or non-employee is injured or has an accident on company property, it's essential that the facts of the accident and information be reported. Quite often, a non-employee may be involved in an accident on your property and will state they are okay or nothing is wrong. In most cases, this type of accident is not reported. But a month or two later, the company receives a notice of the accident without major injuries. Now the company has nothing to defend itself with because an accident report was not made of the incident. Report all accidents and injuries and near misses. no matter who, what, when, where, or why. Back pain is a fact of life. Many of us have suffered back pain and know that it's something to avoid. Most doctors don't agree upon what treatment for back pain is best. However, they all agree exercise and diet will greatly reduce your chances of back pain or injury. Since we're not doctors, you should get medical advice on diet and exercise that's best for you. Proper work practices will make a difference. There are some safe lifting techniques you can use to reduce the potential of injuries and back pain. You'll be given additional training on proper lifting techniques, but for now, let's review some basics. First of all, most back injuries and pain comes from strains and sprains. This means the ligaments in your back become stretched or torn, causing pain. There are discs cushioning between each vertebrae to provide flexibility of your back. Discs are like soft hockey pucks or jelly donuts, and they can be damaged as well. What this means is your back is a very delicate part of your body that needs your attention and effort to keep the spine, discs, nerves, and all the other parts properly aligned. For the back to properly support your body and the things you lift on a daily basis, the spine must be properly aligned. The objective when lifting anything is to maintain this proper alignment. To maintain proper alignment when lifting anything, bend your legs. This maintains proper alignment of the spine. Plant your feet firmly, shoulder width apart, one slightly in front of the other. Simultaneously, tighten your back and abdominal muscles. Bend your knees and squat to the load, keeping the back's natural curves. Get a good palm grip on the object so it won't slip. Next, bring the object against your body and keep it there. This reduces the weight of the object applied directly to your back. Lift with your legs. To change directions, move your feet. Do not twist. There's much more to learn about lifting safely, but remember to keep your back aligned and hold the object against your body when lifting anything. Bend your legs, not your back. Ergonomics is a relative new word in business language. Generally, it means adjusting the work to the individual, not the individual to the work. Everyone works better when they are safe and comfortable. What seems like small discomforts today may, over time, become a problem. Evaluate the arrangement of your workspace and how you work within it. As an example, we'll use a computer workstation. You adjust your monitor, keyboard, your body position, the height of your chair, and your elbows. You make sure your monitor is properly positioned at the proper height for viewing. You make sure there is no glare on the screen, and you take frequent breaks, get up and stretch. In other words, you fit the workstation to your comfort level within guidelines. That's ergonomics. You can apply ergonomics to anything you do. If you perform a task that hurts your back, neck, legs, arms, or hands, you need to find a way to prevent the problem. You're standing in one place all day long. Your feet and legs hurt. Time to get a small step stool or object where you can keep 1 foot higher than the other. This keeps your back in its natural curve and lessens the burden on your feet and legs. Some organizations use mechanical means to move heavy material from one place to another. Robotics is an ergonomic solution to repetitive tasks. Different types of hand tools, moving your workstation around to make it more functional, and reducing injuries. These and many other things are what are called ergonomics. One thing each of you can do is look at your workstation or work area and make suggestions how to improve safety. Sometimes it may be a very simple, easy-to-do change. We may need to practice better habits, such as posture, force applied, grip, and evaluate tasks. It may require engineering. No one is more qualified than you to know if something needs to be changed. If you have a suggestion, be sure to tell your supervisor. There are experts in the ergonomics profession that can help, but they also need your input. When we talk about personal hygiene and sanitation, it means more than just smelling nice. Of course, taking a bath or shower and smelling good is pleasing to everyone, including your coworkers, but personal hygiene and sanitation is a matter of safety also. When you touch doorknobs, you're touching bacteria. You are transferring bacteria from your hands and fingers to everything you touch and receiving it the same way. Sounds frightening, but the majority of bacteria won't harm you. However, some bacteria can cause illness and even death. You've all heard or seen on television about hamburger meat or potato salad or some other food that can cause an outbreak of illnesses. What we are trying to explain is that you should wash your hands frequently to get rid of harmful germs or bacteria. Every time you use the toilet, you should wash your hands and wrists with soap and water. You should keep your work area and yourself clean because bacteria that's left alone for a long time will multiply many times over, creating a greater hazard. Cleaning with soap and water simply gets rid of some bacteria, germs, and things you can see. Now you know that you should bathe or shower daily, smell good, wash your hands and wrists with soap and water after using the toilet. Personal hygiene and sanitation are part of your home life, so make it part of your work life as well. There isn't a safety program that can prevent accidents. No, safety is an individual responsibility that requires everyone to participate. If you don't have a good safety attitude and think about safety on each and every job, you're going to experience an accident. No doubt about it. Accident prevention comes from the person, not rules and regulations. Safety rules and regulations are guidelines that should be followed, but just having rules won't prevent accidents. You must follow the rules. You must learn that 85 to 98% of all accidents and injuries are caused by the unsafe behavior of people. Torn carpet or obstructions do not cause slips and falls. Slips and falls occur because people don't watch where they're walking. Certainly, safety is an obligation you assumed when you were hired. If you take that responsibility seriously, your chance of experiencing an accident or injury is greatly reduced or eliminated. Yes, you must be properly trained, provided with appropriate tools and equipment, and know the proper company safety policies and procedures. Management's job is to provide all these things. Your job is to use this information, tools, equipment, and training to avoid accidents and injuries. Productivity and efficiency are job requirements. Being on time, rested, alert, and ready to do your job are requirements. Following company policies and procedures are requirements. Safety is a job requirement, but more importantly, safety is a moral obligation to yourself, the company, co-workers, and your family. One accident is simply one too many. Thank you.